Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Bakari Lumumba, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on black. Before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. So before we get started, this is going to be more so of a commentary video. Typically, I don't do social commentary, discuss issues in pop culture, but I think this is very important based on some conversations I've had with brothers regarding the Antonio Brown Saga. So I'm not going to get into if there's any the validity of the claims that he made, that of course Tom Brady was trying to freeze him out so he couldn't get his incentive money, or that of course he even had an ankle injury. What I'm going to focus on is an issue that I think is important and very important to all black men. That is, how do you handle workplace issues? How do you address issues in an efficacious manner when there's a belief that you are being discriminated against, treated unjustly, or flat out being in a toxic or racist work environment? I think this is something that's very important because I believe that most black people, unfortunately, here in the Western world, maybe even throughout the world, as we know we are global people, face these type of issues. And so number one, I think it's very important that when we're dealing with the power structure, we have to understand that as a black man, we're seen as public enemy number one. I'm going to say that one more time. As black men, we are seen as public enemy number one. I think we have to be cognizant of that at all times. Number two, oftentimes when you're dealing with issues like this on the job, and I can speak from, of course, experience, what we tend to find is they make the issue, the employer, the power structure, whoever we want to discuss, they make the issue your response to the initial problem, not the actual problem. So, for example, I was on a job once where I had a coworker who was being belligerent, and actually even female coworker who was being belligerent, called me out my name. I sought to distance myself from her. I went into the man's bathroom. She followed me into the man's bathroom. So as you all can imagine, if I had done something like that, not only would I have been fired, I probably would have been arrested and charged with some type of sexual crime. Of course, that wasn't the case, right? But what prevented me from actually being reprimanded in that situation is I realized, I said, hey, this is a Jedi mind trick. She's trying to get a reaction out of me. They're trying to get a reaction out of me. And as a result, I need to make sure that I don't fall for the proverbial banana in the tailpipe, fall for the okie doke. And as a result, she lost her job, but I did not. So I think it's very important in these type of situations, irrespective of what's taking place, that you never lose your composure, that you maintain your professional bearing, right? And even more importantly, we have to understand that as a black man, this is a bad model of behavior, right? We don't want to be seen throughout the world as individuals who are childish, petulant, emotional, and unable to control ourselves, right? So I think it's very important that, and many people say, well, he's fighting against a racist league, a racist power structure, right? And there are structural barriers for black men in the NFL. I would agree. We know the NFL is racist. We saw how they colluded to deny our brother Colin Kaepernick the proper opportunity to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. We know that there are structural barriers, right? Because we see a lack of black men in front office positions, and even though the majority of the players in the NFL are black men. We know the history of the black quarterback and so on and so forth. So I understand all of that, but I think it's very important that when we talk about fighting against racism, fighting against white supremacy, fighting against injustice, fighting against these barriers that seek to inhibit black progress throughout the world, we have to understand that when we look at the Great Line Divine that goes from, of course, when we resisted on the marches to the barricades in West Africa, through the Middle Passage, even when we were brought here to the death and decadence of the Western world, there was always a dignity in our fight. When we look at the I.W. Wells of the world, the Yah Santawas of the world, the Malcolm X's of the world, the Fannie Lou Hamers of the world, and the Carlos Cooks of the world, they didn't make spectacles of themselves when they were resisting white hegemony, right? And so we have to understand that if we're going to fight, right, the old school, they would say that, hey, if you're going to be about that life, you got to walk a certain way, right? Dr. King, for example, I know many people may not be a fan of Dr. King, and that's neither here nor there. But when we talk about Dr. King and not focus on his ideological frame of reference, as we know he was an integrationist, but there were certain behaviors that he engaged in that he made sure was not, that the public didn't see, because he understood that this would be reflect negative not only on me, but of the movement and what we're trying to accomplish, right? And so I think all of us, that we need to understand that if we're going to be about our life, if we're going to fight the good fight, and that fight, of course, is to restore African people to our traditional greatness as a free, proud, and productive people, then we have to understand that we have to move a certain way, and right? And we understand when we look to change systems and cultures and societies, the first change that we have to start with is to change ourselves, right? That's a true step to being a revolutionary. And so just to really wrap this up and let this coalesce, right? I think it's important that in any situation on the job, this could be in school and education, whatever, first and foremost, as a black man, don't lose your composure. That's number one, right? Two, if you're going to fight, you need to fight in a dignified manner. Think of the A. Philip Randolphs of the world, the Marcus Garveys of the world, the W.E.B. Du Boises of the world, the Mary Church Terrells of the world, right? The Mary McLeod Bethunes of the world, right? Don't make a spectacle of yourself if you're looking to fight white hegemony. If you're willing to fight any type of encounter or nefarious individuals that are seeking to inhibit you to be your best self, don't make a spectacle of yourself, because what would take place is they would make your response to their problematic behavior the issue, not actually the problematic behavior. So we want to make sure that that's the case. And then number three, we have to understand that your reputation precedes you, right? And unfortunately, Antonio Brown could be 1,000% right in terms of the allegations that he's made. But here's the reality. His reputation precedes him. His reputation in Pittsburgh when he had a black head coach, right? And he seemed like he was doing everything good to get him fired, right? And so if we want to be about the life and be on code, you should at least do your best when you have a black man that's your supervisor or your boss. Number two, when he went to Oakland and they gave him $30 million, he couldn't even stay on the roster until the beginning of the NFL season, the NFL year. And as a result, he didn't get that money. Then, of course, when he went to New England, there were problems. And, of course, last but not least, now he's in Tampa Bay, and then he was on a prove-it deal. And you have to ask yourself, why would someone who has 6 seasons of 1,500 yards, 100-plus catches, 11 touchdowns, he averaged that for 6 seasons, why is he on a prove-it deal? Because he's shown that his behavior shows that he's someone who can't be trusted, someone who is unable to control themselves and is very impulsive. And so I think it's very important to just go through this one more time. That one, you need to understand that do not respond in an emotional manner when you're facing some type of structural barriers in the workplace, because we know this is something that we're going to have to deal with. Number two, as I stated, your reputation precedes you. We need to understand that. And then number three, most importantly, if you're going to fight in a manner that is worthy of dignity. Fight in a manner that's worthy of the Malcolm X's of the world, the Ida B. Wells of the world, and the Marcus Garveys of the world, in which you understand that our goal is to restore people's traditional greatness. And first and foremost, if you're moving as a man should move in divine masculine energy, you shouldn't be making a spectacle of yourself and resorting to histrionics in the first place. So that's all I have. Make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Please comment below. I'd love to hear what you all think about this issue and my thoughts and my take. Till next time, peace.